The following video discusses how to use SelfChecker as a teacher to both create self-checks, provide them to students, as well as view the student results. To begin with, I'm going to log into the system. Next, notice when we're logged in, we can see items such as a news feed, recent results, as well as self-checks you've created previously. To begin with, I'm going to create a new self-check. A self-check requires a name, so I'll put in the name of the self-check as Mars, the fourth planet from the Sun. And I'll put it in a folder called Astronomy, which I previously created within the Self-Checks tab. Lastly, I'm able to check off that I would like to be emailed each time a learner or student completes the self-check. Next, I need to add questions to my self-check. To do this, I can either create a new question from scratch, or I can search for existing questions within the system. Let's start out by creating a new question. My first question is going to be, which of the following is the planet Mars? And once that's saved, I'll see additional choices related to the question. Next, I need to put in my distractors, and distractors are the choices that the student will be able to select when they're putting in their response. Distractor types are multiple choice as well as the following other types at this point in time. And the default is multiple choice with 4 options presented. Let's put in some various images of different planets, and the student in this case will select one that is Mars. Put in an image of Earth, Mars, various other planets, and in this multiple choice question the student will need to select the correct response. So for our first distractor we have the planet Earth. For the next one we'll put in Mars, which is the correct answer, and I'll note that with the radio button here. And next I'll put in a additional planet image, that's leave Neptune, and lastly we'll put in Saturn. So those are basically my choices, and I'll hit save there. So now we have our distractors saved. And next what we'll do is we'll put some feedback in. So the notion with self-checking is that the student is able to gain immediate feedback when they answer the question as to not only whether they got the question right or wrong, but as well there can be some additional resources provided to the student. And in this case what I've done is I've actually found a video on YouTube which is kind of neat, and it will talk about Mars and certainly give the student an idea that's reddish in color and so on. So let's copy this link because I'll use it in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'll put, if the student got the question incorrect, we'll display the following. Great try. Check out the following video for more information on Mars and try the question out again. And what we'll do is we can use the movie embed tag, and we can either upload videos right to SelfChecker, or we can use the web location reference and select YouTube in this case and just paste the URL right in. And now what we've got is we've got some good feedback that talks to the student about Mars in this case. As well, we can add additional tags to the question. This will help us find the question in the future. I'm just going to tag this to science and the word Mars, as well as this kind of relates to our astronomy unit. So there we go. Next I'll return to Mars, self-check, and notice now we have a question there with our images in it that we just created a moment ago. I'm going to add a couple other questions to our self-check by searching for existing questions in the system. And I'll refine the list just by searching on the word Mars. And what this will show is questions that I've put in previously. For example, here's one right now regarding your weight on Mars, so I'll add that question to this self-check. And here's another video related to Mars and regarding the daytime temperature. I'll add that one as well. Questions can be searched for either based on ones you've created yourself or ones that other teachers have put into the system. Next, you'll notice up top there is an access link. Now this is a link you'd provide to your student via your course website or perhaps email to the student. You can also share a self-check on other popular services such as Twitter or perhaps a blogging service you may use as a teacher. For now, what I'll do just to show you how the system works, we'll click on our access link. And as a student, the student would simply put in their name. So I'm going to put in my student name, and we'll go through each question. So question number 1, which of the following is the planet Mars? And that's the first question we created when setting up our self-check. And I'm going to say, oh, I think this blue planet here is Mars. And the student can then go ahead and view feedback. And notice that it will then reference in that YouTube video, and it tells the student, because of the feedback we inputted into the question feedback area, that the student should check out the following video for more information on Mars, and then try out the question again. So if the student kind of played this video and looked at it, they would notice that Mars is very reddish in color, and out of the choices provided, that the second choice is the most likely one of the planet Mars, and they can go ahead and view the feedback. And now we find out that we actually got the answer correct. So again, part of the reinforcement of the self-check is to really learn from this experience, thereby making it a formative assessment experience as opposed to summative. Let's go on to the next question, and the next one was one of the questions which I searched for when setting up the self-check. Would an earthling feel heavier, lighter, or about the same on the surface of Mars? And I'm going to guess at this. I'm not really sure again. I'll say heavier and view the feedback. And in this case, the feedback points us to a web page. So I'm actually going to check out that web page. And this is a cool little web page that I found, and it relates to inputting your weight into this web tool. And so we'll say I weigh 180 pounds, and we'll calculate our weight on different planets. And note it calculates my weight on Mars as being quite a bit less than my weight on Earth. Therefore, as a student, I can go back and I can say, you know what? I realize now that I would be lighter on the surface of Mars. And we'll view the feedback. And now we got the answer correct. Let's move on. So as a student now, we can watch a video about Mars. And we'll be able to find out some interesting information about Mars from this video. I believe it was posted by NASA on a popular video sharing service. So if we go through and watch that video, what we'll end up finding is the daytime maximum surface temperature on the surface of Mars is about 20 degrees Celsius. So if I put in 20, and this is a numeric response style question, we find out we get that correct. Lastly, as a student, we'll finish the self-check, and we can either take it again reinforcing the fact that this is a formative assessment learning experience. And we can also go through our results, and we can see how we did as a student. So we can go through each question, review the results, and see, again, if we got them correct or not. On the teacher's side, what we'll now be able to see is in, for example, our home tab in our news feed, we'll be able to see that this particular student finished this self-check about 3 minutes ago. And as the teacher, I'm able to go into the self-check and review that and see how the student has done. Again, noting things like correct, but it took multiple attempts. That's actually a good thing because the student is able to hopefully learn from this experience. Going through the various questions, for example, to the third question, we'll note that the student got it right on the first try. So that's a quick overview of SelfChecker and how you can create self-checks, provide them to your students, and review the feedback.